What's up, everybody? Lou from Hypocritic, back on the show floor at PAX West 2024. We are here with Dan from Digital Eclipse to talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Rita's Rewind.
Yes.
Thanks so much for taking some time this afternoon.
Thanks for coming by and checking out the game. I am stoked because we've been working on this a long time, and this is our big first public playable, and getting fans to play it and see what they think and give us feedback, so it's great.
Well, we are going to dig into that.
All right.
We'll tell you. So for those who don't know, tell us about Rita's Rewind.
Okay, Rita's Rewind is a 16-bit style brawler. Basically, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is one of the biggest franchises of the 90s. It never had an arcade coin-op game. So we decided, now 30 years later, we finally get to make the 90s coin-op game that it never had, but we get to do it with all the modern sensibilities on modern hardware. So the idea is that Robo Rita from the special on Netflix, Once and Always, last year, she goes back in time and tries to destroy the original Rangers in 1993, teaming up with her original self. So we have two villains against 5 teenagers with attitude that have no idea that they're fighting 2 of their greatest villain. And so we get to play with a lot of Rangers lore, a lot of Rangers history. We get to remix a lot of things that fans know into something that is just purely a fun brawler with other 90s arcade elements like racing and punching and things like that.
And it really shows when you put it all in motion. So let's get into the core concept a little bit and how it started to come together from the beginning. Was this always a Power Rangers game when you started working on it? Tell us about the development history behind it.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that Hasbro, we made contact with Hasbro and they said we're working on a new retro arcade series. They wanted to use a lot of the franchises that they have to make games, new games that look and feel old. And that's something that Digital Eclipse is very good at doing. So they said, let us know, what's your pitch? Pitch us on what you want. And we immediately said, we want Power Rangers. And here's our idea, and this whole time travel plot line, and being able to go back to the first season and make a brawler, but also sprinkle in other gameplay. And Hasbro, to their credit, they were like, that sounds awesome, please do that. So they've been a really good partner to work with, but from the beginning, this was conceived as a Power Rangers game. The idea being, if you could do any Power Rangers game you wanted to do, what would you do? And so we're like, we want to do like every 90s game in one game. And they let us get away with that. So it's been really fun.
It's fantastic. And now, you mentioned Digital Eclipse, you said kind of well-equipped to tackle this kind of project specifically. Again, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about the studio and some of the previous projects that helped inform this.
Sure. Digital Eclipse has been around since 1992, so if people don't recognize the name, they've probably still played a game we worked on. Recently, we're probably best known for 2 things. One, which is reissue compilations like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, SNK's 40th Anniversary Collection, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. But we also do something called the Gold Master Series, which are interactive documentaries. This is something we've been really trying to push forward. The idea that you could learn the history of a game, but play the game as the history is unfolding. So we tell you the narrative of this is how, say, the legendary fighting game Karateka came about. And what we have are different builds of the game, prototypes that you've never played before. But we put them in historical context with interviews with the original creators, their family members, other people that were involved. So that's called our Gold Master Series. We did one with Llamasoft that came out last year, and we've just announced Tetris Forever, where we're going to be able to tell the story of Tetris with the creators of Tetris, a very famous story, and we get to do that with a whole bunch of games that have never appeared in the West legally. So those are the kind of things that we do. But we can also make retro games in a modern games in a retro style, because over the years, Digital Eclipse has been associated with a ton of licensed games on Game Boy, Kim Possible, and Little Nicky. There's a cult around Game Boy Color Little Nicky that we did, and Alice in Wonderland. We've done a whole bunch of stuff. You might be surprised to find out how much Digital Eclipse, but we do have a specialty in classic gaming, and this is one way we can apply it.
And quite the pedigree. And obviously coming into great form and showing very well here.
Thanks.
Talking about some of the gameplay now in Rita's Rewind. Brawler primarily, as we talked about, with 5-player simultaneous gameplay and an incredibly fluid and attractive animation, which you wouldn't necessarily get if this adhered to the technical limitations of something like Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, for sure. We are making a game for modern hardware that recalls all the best of the 16-bit arcade and home eras, but yeah, 16-bit gaming never had this many frames of animation. You know, they didn't have this much video RAM. So we're taking advantage of that. One of the things our studio head, Mike Micah, likes to say is we like to make games the way you remember them, not the way they necessarily were. So if the Power Rangers had been given the honor of an arcade game back in the 90s, would it have looked like this? We would have all remembered that it would have looked like this, but it probably would have been a bit more limited. So we're taking advantage of the modern era and the modern tools and our proprietary engine to make this feel like a classic game, but look and still sort of be the experience that recalls what it was like to play with your friends, everybody throwing a quarter. No quarters here now, obviously, but the vibe is what we're going for. Make a 90s game about a 90s franchise with modern hardware.
And it really does show. You can sit down in front of it and all of a sudden you could be playing X-Men or TMNT or anything that it very much feels like and calls to mind with some of those modern improvements like you're mentioning. How important was it from Digital Eclipse's perspective to capture the flavor of those types of games specifically, where there are lightning in a bottle memories for generations of people, to bring that with those more modern sensibilities but be faithful to what they remember from that era at the same time?
Well, we're all the people with those memories. I will say that a lot of people that work at Digital Eclipse grew up in arcades. So we understand the emotional connection that you have to those games and to franchises that mean a lot to you. We kind of believe that it's always okay to love what you love, you know? So like, Power Rangers is one of those franchises that inspires incredible devotion and loyalty. Arcade gaming doesn't feel like NES gaming, doesn't feel like PlayStation gaming. Each one of these has a different flavor. So we want to, whatever our target is, we want to go back and say, we remember what it was like to play this, and this is how we feel. We know when we've hit that feeling because we've had that feeling too. So we want, that is absolutely a core goal for everything that Digital Eclipse does. Whatever the project's goal may be, like, yeah, absolutely let people tap into their best emotions, whatever it is that they remember. It is dangerous ground, right? Because if you get it wrong, you're going to make a lot of people very angry. And we do not want to make people angry, we just want to make people happy. So, like, you know, as somebody who loved this, what would, you know, this would make me happy. And that starts there. And then we find out that a lot of that is a communal experience. It is a shared experience. And what made us happy made a lot of other people happy too. If we can hit on that, then we know we're doing something right.
Yeah, and kind of tying into that, Power Rangers as an IP, obviously one that has a lot of devotion, a lot of passion, and a lot of memories behind it. So talk a little bit about, if you can, the process of building the world of Power Rangers up again in a title like this, you know, working within the realm of the franchise, what you could do, what you couldn't do, what, you know, pleasing the fans, all that kind of fun stuff.
Sure. I mean, we've heard from a lot of fans, and I love the fans because the fans know every last detail. And the fans have been very eager for a game like this, right? Like, for years, they've been dreaming of a game like this, so that when we announce it, they assume that whatever it is that they've dreamed in their head for the last 15 to 20 years is what we're going to make. Whereas we may have had a different creative goal. We said from the beginning, we'd like to go back to the original Rangers, and we'd like to be able to do this time travel thing to have fun with the history. And, once and always, this Netflix special gives us the exercise and the opportunity to do that. So, as soon as we announced the game during Summer Games Fest, we got everybody telling us what the game was. Oh, so you're going to do this! And I understand where that enthusiasm comes from, but then you feel like, I hope we're not going to disappoint people, because our focus is actually very specific. You know, we are doing this thing, and we can only do so much in any one game. Every game has scope. And having the fans say, yeah, but you're not doing this. I'm like, please just focus on what we are doing. You know, like, please just we are making this for the fans, and we are fans of Power Rangers ourselves. It is an extremely emotional franchise because when people watched Power Rangers that are still lifelong Power Rangers fans, there's a magic time when you're growing up when that imprints on you, you know, and that's sacred. And we feel that's sacred too. So I'm hoping that we'll have the trust of those players to know that we do have their best interests in mind. We may not make everything that they have ever dreamed of, but we will definitely make something that we feel validates all the love and emotion that they've given to Power Rangers, and hopefully will be super fun as an arcade game as well. So you're right, there's a lot of things to balance, but hopefully we're going to pull it off, and we are doing it from the most earnest place that you can possibly imagine.
And the fact that it comes from a place of passion and the drive and the love for the IP, having it baked into the DNA of the game, often makes all the difference with projects like
I
this.
hope so. I really hope so.
Now-
Proof will be when people play it, obviously.
And speaking of,
Oh,
if I
okay.
remember correctly, the first time here at PAX West, people are getting their hands on the game and experiencing it. Kind of two-part question on this one. A, what does that feel like to have worked on something like this for so long with so much love behind it and finally kind of letting it out into the world and letting it get its legs a little bit? And on the same token, how have people been responding to it?
Well, I think one thing that a lot of fans don't realize is how difficult and multifaceted game development is. There's a team of people that day in, day out, this is all they're thinking about, this is all they're working on. There's a lot of, it's not a 9-to-5 job, so there are a lot of judgment calls made too. I believe this will make the best game. I think this is the right thing to do. It is a creative endeavor by a group of people that are aligned. So when gamers see something that maybe they don't agree with or they don't understand, they'll lash out and say, this is terrible. And that crushes the team because the team has only been working for months to years to try to make people happy. So it has been very gratifying to see that a lot of the things that we hoped would be true, when I see people pick up the controllers, they immediately start playing, they immediately start laughing. Even when they fail, they're having fun, they're laughing with each other, they're falling off of a ledge of a rooftop in one of our levels, and they're cackling because they're having fun falling off. That feels great. So from a morale perspective, having been working on this title mostly in secret for more than a year, it's huge. And I'm taking videos of people enjoying the game. I'm taking photos of a big crowd around our booth when it's there, so that the team back in Emeryville knows your efforts are appreciated. We are reaching the audience and the fans are digging this. The second part of your question, I completely forget. Could you please restate?
How it's all good. A lot going on, right? How players have been responding to it at the show.
It's been amazing because there's different kinds of people, right? There's arcade gamers who want to just press X and punch all the putties, and we are making that game for those people. But there's also super fans that have been coming up who know a lot of the lore. They have watched all of the series. They have memorized the comic books. They know this is Power Rangers first and foremost, and an arcade brawler game second. So they are coming up and asking me very specific questions about things. I love it. I can't always give them the answers that they want, but pretty much everybody so far has been extremely positive. If I give them an answer that they weren't hoping to hear, no, I understand. You know, you guys have certain things you have to do. So it's been wonderful because I believe that this is the seed where they're gonna go onto the fan forums and go, yo, it's the real deal. Oh, I'm really happy to say that I had fun with what it was. So, hopefully it'll all work out. But so far, very, very good, and I've been sending a lot of stuff back to the team so that they see what I see.
That's fantastic. Get that morale boost, and then as the sort of groundswell comes along, hopefully gets people hyped ahead of release. Speaking of, when will the game be coming out and on what platforms?
It is coming out in 2024. We don't have anything more specific than that right now. I would hate to give an answer only to have to walk it back because anticipation sucks, but disappointment is worse. So it is definitely coming out before the end of the year. It's going to be digital first. We are talking about the potential of a physical. I know a lot of fans have said they would like to see a physical edition. It's not confirmed, but we know the desire is there, and we are talking about it, discussing, can we make it happen? If so, when? What would it be? All of those details. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's not just save as cartridge for Switch, right? But it's something we know people would like to do. It's something we would like to do. We are big fans of physical media too, but it will be digital first in 2024. When we're taping this, there's only about 4 months left in the year. It's not going to be very long, so you won't have to wait very long. But yeah, I don't have anything more specific than end of this year. Fall 2024 is what we're saying in the demo.
And are platforms revealed at this point?
Yes, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So pretty much all the majors, 5 players on each of them. A couple people have asked if there's cross-play. No, but there is couch co-op for all 5 players, and there is online play within your system for all 5 players.
Great. Okay.
5 Rangers, 5 players had to be.
Makes a lot of sense. One final tack on then, if I can, talking about a physical release. Something you see a lot of, especially in the sort of throwback or retro game space, where you're building on throwback IP or old IP that people remember from decades ago, but it is a tricky process, like you're saying. What can you tell us about some of what you're trying to do and investigate to go do a physical release, some of the work that goes into trying to make that happen so people have a better idea of how that comes together?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, certainly there's a different logistics at play. The beauty of digital distribution is that you can make a game, and as soon as it's done, you can submit it for approval, and it's pretty fast. With a physical edition, you have to start 3 to 4 months in advance because you have to line up your manufacturing, you have to figure out the printing of the label, you have to design the label, you have to then design the silkscreen for the disc or the cartridge itself. You have to get a certain amount of parts, you have to have the physical media, you have to invest in all of that. And then you start thinking about like, oh, well, if we're going to go to all this trouble, what about a collector's edition? What about a steel book? Where do we get steel books? What's a steel book going to look like? So there's a whole, it's absolutely, it's not just, and also physical. If anything, it was easier when digital started because physical was still the norm. And then you go, and yeah, I guess we'll also put it on a digital because it was a subset. This is the opposite. Digital is the core game, but then you have all of this physical, and there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of cool fan stuff you can do. There's a lot of collectibles. There's a lot of limited editions that you can do. But yeah, it takes a lot more logistics than I think people realize, and it takes additional personnel beyond just the dev team because it's a publishing thing. Digital Eclipse, thankfully, we're part of the Atari family now. We are both a publisher and a developer. On this one, Atari's going to publish it, so we have their expertise, and are like, hey, we know how to bring out physical stuff. So we're talking about it. But yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion. I know that physical is very popular, and I know that as more and more games get delisted across the various different ecosystems, it becomes more and more valuable to do it. So we're well aware of that, and again, you should see our closets full of gaming stuff. We understand, but there's also business realities that we have to solve. They are solvable, but we have to consider that as part of our process.
Context is key. All right, Dan from Digital Eclipse, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. And keep it tuned here to HypocriticGG for more from PAX West all weekend long.